First of all, I would like to start with a story. I was invited in the year 2003 by Professor Wayne Deloria to United States to a small place called Lacey, and there was a meeting with 15 elders of the big American tribes, and the story of the 3 days meeting was giants and little people. At that time, I had knowledge about many strange artifacts, but I had not any information, real information about giants or little people. And from that moment on, it started, and it got for me one of the most interesting research field. So I would like to start with the first picture. I was 2 months ago, I was in South Africa together with Michael Tellinger, and he brought me out to a very strange place on the countryside, and we could visit this giant footprint. This footprint is 130 centimeters, and this giant human must have been the size of about 7 to 7.5 meters, and the weight should have been about 1.6 tons. You can see here the close-up of the giant print, and you can see exactly if you walk into a weak mud with your teeth, you push out automatically the mud, and you see here that this is really a human footstep, but everybody who is contrary against it would say why it is showing up and not flat on the bottom. And Michael and myself, we checked the area around, and you can see here the giant footprint, and this plate is also granite, but there must have been a very big earthquake or a movement of the earth, and this big stone plate on the right side must have moved up the other stone formation with this giant footprint. On this photo, you can see bones which I found in Ecuador, in the south of Ecuador, in the province Loja, where 1964, Father Carlos Vaca, a priest, was called by the indigenous in a small town because there was a heavy storm overnight and a part of a mountain breakdown of a platform, and many bones, broken bones, were shown up. Padre Carlos Vaca was working many years in hospitals, and they called him if he can tell them what this might be. So he visited the place and he checked the bones, and he identified many of the bones as human bones, but after researching everything, the size of this human skeleton must have had the size of 7.6 meters. You can see the papers on each bone. That's the handwriting of Father Carlos Vaca, and he also called some experts, and they also proved that these bones are skeleton bones of a giant human. The bones must be very old, because on this photo you can see a part of the skull plate, and you can see the crystallization on this bone. So that means this skeleton is really very old. I met the family of Father Carlos Vaca because it took me about 3-4 years until I found out where he lived in the province Loja. So when I went there, I got the sad information that exactly 1 month ago he passed away, but I could make contact with his family, his brother's family, and they kept all the bones, and they allowed me to bring some of these bones to Vienna to do some further research on them. So on this picture, you can see one definitely identified human bone. It's a part of the heel bone. This is a side picture of this heel bone. When I had it in Vienna, I asked the professor of anatomy from the University of Vienna if he can do me a check on these bones. And he checked several of them, and finally he said, it's incredible. They look like human bones, but it might not be possible because they are at least 5 times bigger. So next day he called me again and he said if I would have time for him. So he came with the original human bones, exactly the same, and he did comparison, and he also said it's impossible, but they look like human bones, and I'm quite sure they are human bones because we had several other checks and the result was always the same. We found in old documents in South America, in Quito, informations from Chiesa de Leon. He was historian for the conquistadors in the 16th century. And in one of his reports, he wrote, "Today we found on the coast of Esmeraldas several human skeletons, but they were 5 times bigger than we." So if you think that a normal person at that time had the size of about 150, 160 centimeters, 5 times would be exactly 7.5, 7.6 meters. The next photo shows part of the nose bone, and the next one is a so-called os occipitale, which we have left side, right side under the skull, which makes us able to move the skull around. As Michael said yesterday, he never got in touch with the real old giant human bones. I asked him today, I would be very happy if he could visit me in Vienna and check the bones, because his opinion would be very important for me. In a small museum in Cuenca, in Ecuador, we found this stone axe, which is 70 centimeters long and very heavy. It's made out of granite, and you can even see here that there was in former times also something, a rope or something like this, around it for holding it. Again, here we did comparison with normal stone axes from South America, and this one is also approximately 5 times bigger than a normal one. This is another one, very big stone axe from the same museum, and this one, another one. Of course, they are mentioned, announced at the museum as ceremonial axes. In the exhibition 2004 in Switzerland, Unsolved Mysteries, an American artist did us a replica, a model of a 7.6 meter giant, and you can see how big this giant really was. That's another picture. The skull is so big, 5 times bigger than a normal skull, that 2 men had to hold it with their hand. Very interesting discovery was done in the famous Cuevas de los Tallos in Ecuador. This is a very, very big underground tunnel system which was found by Juan Moritz about 35 years ago. There were some expeditions already inside, and on this picture you can see that this tunnel system, especially this big hole, is man-made, and you can see the entrance on the other side. And there is one man, if you look at this figure, this is not a man, this is a wall painting, and the man standing next to it is here. And this wall painting is very coincidentally 7.5 meters big. So for me, that might be a sign that in Cuenca, in Ecuador, really giants with the size of 7.5, 7.6 meters, they really lived there. Then we got some photos from Bolivia, from the military, that they found several skeletons with a size of 2.6 meters, 2.5 meters. You see on this picture bones and the front of a skull. And here is a close-up of one of these skulls. You can see that the jaw is much stronger than our jaw. And the most strange thing for me is that, as Brian yesterday explained exactly, that we human, we have Homo sapiens, we have the 3 bone plates, bone connections. These skulls, they have not the missing connection over the skull. So for me, these skeletons cannot be Homo sapiens sapiens, not Neanderthal and not Cro-Magnon. We have the information from the military, and one of my next trip would be to Bolivia, and I hope I could be able to bring 1 or 2 small bones with me. And I have a friend in the United States who is a specialist on DNA, William Brown, and he promised me to do a serious DNA analysis on it. On the next picture, you see on the left side a very big stone block. This stone block was found in a former coal mine in the United States, and in the stone is a human skull petrified. I had this stone in Berlin at the exhibition, and we could knock on the brain place here on this side, and you can hear that inside it's hollow. That means, for me, it looks like, and I think it is a petrified skull, and you can see also that this skull is bigger than a normal human skull, so it might be also from a former human being with a size of about 3 to 4 meters. Then I received pictures from friends from the publisher of Ancient American that they found in Utah several human skeletons with a size of 2.6 meters. I found in old documentations going back to 1890 up to 1920 hundreds of informations, newspaper reports, even from the New York Times, that they found in mounds, in American mounds, human skeletons with the size of 2.5 up to 2.8 meters. The reports were always written which archaeologists found it, and they always ended up with they brought the skeletons to the Smithsonian Institution. Wayne Deloria, he was fighting for the indigenous history in the United States. He told me that his research is showing him, and he got information that Smithsonian loaded a ship with artifacts, and they sank them in the open sea. I don't know if this is reality, but Wayne Deloria was a serious person and double professor. The next picture was made in a museum in Malta. That picture is from 1960, and they were showing several long skulls, but not elongated skulls up, but flat, long skulls. Adriano Forgione, the publisher of an archaeological magazine in Italy, tried to get touch to these skeletons, to these skulls, because they are no more displayed in the museum. So he asked the ministry, and with help of the Italian television, they could do a documentation of these skulls. And you can see here that these are also not Homo sapiens, because they are long skulls. They are about this size long, and you cannot elongate a skull to the backward, because that means you should close up and down here, and the baby or the child would not survive. So that's quite impossible, and experts also told me that an artificial elongation this way would be impossible. And you can see that there is only one connection line over the 2 bone plates on top of the skull, which also means for me they must have been bigger than normal people. And if you look at Malta, what kind of huge stone monuments and stone temples they have, it would be understandable, more easy understandable, if those people were at least up to 2.5, 3 meters in size. You have here Adriano Forgione with a normal human skull and with one of these elongated long skulls, and you can see how long these skulls are, and definitely much bigger than a normal human skull. A few years ago, I met Professor Ernst Mulderschew, which I show you later some of his research, also this one. This is one of the entrances in a huge underground labyrinth in Malta. There is a smaller entrance, and outside this area they found another one which was going inside a rock formation. And here you see one of the, just a close-up of one of these, how you call it, the column, yeah? There are hundreds of them, and geologists, I have some very good friends, and we were discussing these photos, and they were very much surprised that the entrance is on the flat ground, and they told me, if you make a hollow room in granite stone, the material you are taking out should be 3 times bigger than the hollow room in volume. That means this labyrinth, there must be a small mountain of stones outside the labyrinth, but it is not. And the biggest question is, how did they do this huge, very, very big underground labyrinth? You see the normal size, the humans, and how big this labyrinth is. This is one of the rooms they found inside. And then they went 1 year later to northern Syria because they got a knowledge about 3 giant footsteps. So they went there, and Professor Muldashev always, when he is doing an expedition, he takes 4 or 5 different scientists with him. And I think this is the most fantastic idea, because with him is an archaeologist, anthropologist, ethnologist, geologist. So that's the best thing, on the spot, getting a really answer about many questions. The problem with scientists is, if an archaeologist finds a very interesting place, he is not willing to share with others. He wants to get the merit. But I think if we would have expeditions with several scientists, we could get much more information. So you can see they filled the footsteps with water, and you see that the 2 steps are plain, and if you make a step forward in a weak, soft material, and you would like to go back out of this, you have to put your weight on the heel bone to come back out of the material. And you see exactly here on this photo that exactly at the heel side, it's deeper than a normal footstep. And here you also can see how big this one is. And I asked Professor Muldashev if they were thinking about the size of this human, and they said at least 6 meters in size, even a little bit more. So, and of course, for the official archaeologists, these human footsteps are artificial made. So they took some of this material with them, and they did the analysis in Russia, and the material was cement. So it is not stone where the footsteps are inside, it is artificial made cement. Another story about giants I got from Sardinia, Italian island, and we found there some very interesting stone towers, so-called nuriages. And the interesting thing is they are up even to 25 meters in height, but most of them have only one entrance and no windows. So for the Italian archaeologists, these nuriages, and there are approximately 6,000 on the island of Sardinia, are made as protection towers. But I think doing a protection tower with only one entrance would be quite dangerous, because if the enemies are making a fire at the entrance, they would force us to come out. And the age of these nuriages by the Italian archaeologists is approximately 1,600 to 1,800 years, and I think they are even much, much older. And several of these nuriages, they have some small window on top, and on a certain day, on the summer solstice, there is the sunshine going through these small windows and produces a bull's head in the center of the nuriage. Here is Adriano Forgione in one of the biggest nurages, and this one has several small windows, and this is a drawing of the ground plan of this nurage, and especially at the summer solstice dates, the sunset and the sun rising is always fixing exactly one through the other small windows. So for the private researchers, they had done a real great job in Sardinia. They found out that these nurages had archaeoastronomical functions. For me, the interesting thing was the story about the giant graves, giant tombs. And you can see how big stones they used to build these giant tombs. And I met in a small village very old gentlemen, and they reported us that 1938, the Italian military came and they brought out some oversized human skeletons of some of these giant tombs. But officially, these were not tombs at all. Here we are on top of one of these giant tombs, and you can see also here what kind of huge stone was on top of one of these tombs. And we did a joking photos, of course, just looking how many people would be necessary to be able to move this stone, but I'm quite sure there wouldn't be enough people to hold this stone at all. And how did they bring it up on top of these tombs? This is one of the entrance of a giant tomb, and the most interesting photo is coming now. They found about 10 meters under the sea level also giant tombs. So that is for me really the approval that the giant tombs are not 1,600 to 1,800 meters. They must be at least 10,000 years old. And there is a lot of similarity again with other stone monuments like in Peru or like in other countries. Precise work, they have done these big blocks in a very precise style, but most of them are destroyed. And then an old gentleman brought us inside Sardinia to a place where there is just nothing. And here you can see one of the monoliths, which is staying here. And there is a rock area close by, and you can see that this one was man-made and brought out of one of a big rock. And also, this picture, if you see it, you might think this was done in Malta, the very famous car tracks, but this is inside of Sardinia, and the lines are precise, the same size, exactly the same distance, but for me the most unexplainable is that they are going for about 100 meters and then there is nothing, and about 50, 60 meters they are starting again. So what was in between? There are no stone plates in between always. So this is really one of the unexplainable things in Sardinia. Then we found also some caves inside the mountain. They have 3 to 4 rooms, perfect done. And in the area close by, they restored one of the pyramids. They found already several of pyramids in Sardinia. This is another picture of the restored one. And then this private researcher group brought us to destroyed giant tombs. And close to this area, there was on the top of a mountain a pyramid, but it was destroyed. We don't know if that was a very, very big catastrophe or if that was done by human. But all around the mountain, you see perfect made stone blocks, very big stone blocks. And every stone block, either if it's laying on the ground or on the side, one side is completely overdone with crystallization. So that means these stones or this building or pyramid must be very, very old, thousands and thousands of years. Last year in September, I was invited by Professor Sam Osmanagic to a conference in Bosnian. And when I got the invitation and I saw that the other speakers are all scientists, I thought I have to be careful with my unexplainable artifacts. What can I do? And a friend of mine in Germany, he invented a new system, this system, he can scan through satellite using down 3,000 meters underground. And I asked him, could you do me a favor, because there are several mountains, and Professor Osmanagic said that these mountains are pyramid. So I picked up the biggest one, the so-called Sun Pyramid, and I asked Peter, my friend, could you do me a scanning over if you find some tunnels or some rooms in this mountain? He did it, and to our surprise, you can see here the so-called Sun Pyramid with all different colored tunnels, and the tunnel systems are going from the light blue one is 5 meters deep up to 400 meters. And the system of the tunnels is always slightly moved. That means it looks like a spiral. And scientists found out that on top of the Sun Pyramid in Egypt, it goes out a very, very strong energy straight up to the sky. And this spiral form could be one of the explanations how to produce the energy. On the picture you can see here the yellow one here. That's one room inside, and my friend even could detect bones and other material inside. So for me, definitely, this Sun Pyramid is not just a mountain, it's a pyramid. Here you see how many tunnels going around, and as Professor Osmanagic was prohibited by the government to make excavations on the pyramid, he started about 2.5 kilometers away, excavating a huge underground tunnel system, which was built upon finding of some organic material about 10,000 years ago. And the strangest thing is that it was filled completely and precisely filled again about 5,000 years ago. On top of the Sun Pyramid, he did in the past several excavations, and you can see here the stone blocks. The whole pyramid is covered with big stone blocks. And exactly the day when we arrived, and I already knew that my friend told me the lowest tunnel at the bottom of the pyramid ends up in about 5 meters deepness, suddenly ending. And he said, I don't know what that means. And when we were there, here you can see Hugh Newman. They showed us a place where they, not allowed, did some further excavations. And exactly on that day, they found in about 4.5 meters entrance to something, because there's a hollow room behind. And this place, we checked it with my friend, is exactly there where the 5 meters tunnel, underground tunnel, is ending completely. So that means it would be, if they are able to open this entrance this year, and I think they are working right now on it, they might be able to go inside the pyramid and then up to the room. That would be really a big sensation. I hope they are lucky. But what a coincidence, exactly the day when we arrived with the delegation, they showed us that on that day they found this entrance. Here you can see one picture of the labyrinth. You see it's stone and earth material, and it is with the same material completely filled. And every small tunnel, side tunnel, is with a half-meter stone wall and then again completely filled. So this labyrinth, here you see some of these stones connecting another tunnel site, And they found also huge stones, and they did material checkings. And these are not stones, these are ceramics, artificial made. And the labyrinth has 43 times more negative ions than a very good room, and there is no radiation, nothing inside. And they did some sound recordings, and they made the sound recording hearable for us, and it sounds like there is some engine going on here, but very strange, and they are doing further researches there. These informations and pictures I also got from Professor Muldashev from Russia. You can see the sacred mountain of the Tibetan, the Mount Kailash, which is 6,704 meters in official papers. And Professor Muldashev said that they did research. Of course, they cannot move on the Mount Kailash because it's forbidden. But his scientists told him that they think that the top of the Mount Kailash is a step pyramid, and the real Mount Kailash is about 6,660 meters high. And there is a story, the height of Mount Kailash in meters corresponds to the distance from Mount Kailash to North Pole in kilometers, 6,666 kilometers. The distance from Mount Kailash to Stonehenge is 6,666 kilometers, and from Stonehenge to the Bermuda Triangle and further on to Easter Island, 2 times 6,666 kilometers. From Easter Islands to South Pole, 6,666 kilometers, and from South Pole to Mount Kailash, again 6,666 kilometers. So that's very strange, and here you see that from the Great Pyramid in Egypt to the North Pole, and from the North Pole to Mount Kailash, it's both ways is 6,666 kilometers, and the distance from the Great Pyramid to Mount Kailash is 4,999 kilometers. With a special camera, they did photos around the Mount Kailash because Professor Muldashev said that there are stories that Mount Kailash and the area around was the city of the gods. And on this photo, you can see on the left side some stairs going up, and you see 4 half portraits of human here, and here the stairs going up. And each of these human portraits has the size of 700 meters. That means who could be able to do such big monuments on a stone in the Tibetan mountains? This is a human dump found in the Middle East, and you see here a normal one and this one. Also this one must be of a human giant, at least with a size of 3.2 meters in size. Jerry Mowers in Utah, in United States, found an underground tunnel, and inside the underground tunnel, he found 2 mummies, one male and one female mummy, very good in very good conditions. And the man was about 3 meters in size and had red hair, and the lady had blonde hair, and her size was 2.7 meters. He brought out of this underground tunnel 60 perfect made stone boxes, and every box was filled with copper plates with a completely unknown writing. And on this copper plate, you can see even the hairstyle of the lady, which is showing here, the hair decoration. It's exactly the same on one of the copper plates. And also here, the writing, first moment I thought it looks like the Sumerian writing, but it is different. It is not the same. And another interesting photo I received from Rex Gilroy. He is a researcher in Australia. He found several human look-like footprints, and he did he filled it with material, and these are the forms. Also, these human beings must have been much bigger than a normal human. And now we are coming to one human skull which was found in Morocco, in an area where there are only fossils with the age of about 250 to 300 million years. And they did X-rays and everything. The size of this human skull is like an apple, so very little. But it is definitely not the skull of an ape. And even if it would be an ape, the age of 250 to 300 million years would bring up some very big questions to the geologists and archaeologists. And this is a very, very interesting mummy. It was found in the Atacama Desert in Chile, and the size of this little mummy is 14 centimeters. So when I got information about it, I called the owner. He is living in Barcelona, and he brought it to Vienna. And I asked the top specialist for anatomy, the professor, if he can do me a checking on this, because for the official science, this is a fetus. So he checked it, and he told me it cannot be a fetus because the bones are too complete for a fetus, because a fetus with this size must be approximately 5 months old, and then the feet and everything would not be that perfect like here on this picture. It has only 10 ribs, we have 12, and little teeth, which is also quite impossible for a fetus. And also the form of the skull is very strange. But after checking it, he told me, I don't think that this is an adult. I think it might be the age of 4 to 6 years. And a few months later, I got the completely documentation from Russia that they found close to Chelyabinsk in the south of the Ural. There was an old lady, and she was living alone in the woods. And she was buying something in the town, and she got sick, she broke down, they brought her to hospital. And when she woke up, she wanted to leave the hospital, they didn't let her go. Then she started crying, and she said, I have to go home, my baby is dying, my baby is dying. So they brought her to the psychiatric hospital, and after a few days, a nurse thought that there's something wrong with the lady, why she is talking about the baby, and she called the police, and the police went to her house. They opened the house, and they found exactly the same being like you have here, the mummy on the picture, and the size of this one was 28 centimeters. So when a child is 4 to 6 years, and when it's adult, usually it has approximately the double size. So here, the professor in Vienna was right. This is definitely a child, and the one in Russia was an adult. But the old lady explained that she found it in the woods, and she thought that it's a child thrown out by the parents. And this human being was living with her for over a month, and it was only taking sugar water. No food, nothing. It only took sugar water. And when the police found it, they brought it out to sunshine because it was dead. The meat was scrambling, and finally it looked exactly like this mummy from Chile. Here you have another picture, and here another close-up of the bones, and especially of the finger bones here. So definitely it was not a fetus. Then, very shortly, because Brian did a very wonderful presentation yesterday, here is one of the elongated skulls found in Vienna, outside Vienna, and they have many of them in the Natural Historical Museum, and these are Avars, which is a kind of Hun tribe, and they went to the area of Vienna, and they had elongated skulls. This one is from Egypt. I just go quickly over. That's from Tiahuanaco, Veracruz. A picture from Veracruz. This is from Ica. These skulls Brian showed already yesterday. And for me, very interesting ones are now the following one, because they are also in this small museum. We went there in the year 2000 and 2001 because we visited the stone library from Professor Cabrera, and that was the chance that we could visit also the Maria Reiche Museum, where the other skulls were kept. And this skull and the next ones are also from the same museum, but here you can see that there was a trepanation, and this human survived the operation. But for us and also for doctors, these pieces with the black points in are not really explainable. Also on that one here, a very strange bone inside, and also on the next one here, the form of the connection of the bones, and especially these two parts, are leaving some questions, what kind of human they were. Here you see a perfect trepanation, but it looks like it was done with a modern thriller. And this one is a big trepanation, but here on a close-up you can see how sharp it was done, precise done. So I have no idea how with simple instruments you can do such a precise work on a human skull. And this one again, trepanation, and this patient also survived. And this skull is at the National Museum in Lima, and they did a form how this human should have looked like. Now we are going to the age of human. Here you see a human footstep and dinosaur's footstep from Biloxi River in Texas. Here you can see the human was walking this way and the dinosaurs this way. And of course, when the director of the Creation Evidence Museum, Dr. Bow, when he was showing these pictures officially, of course, the archaeologists said that anthropologists also that this was human-made because he is the director of the Creation Evidence Museum. So they, in another warm summer, when the river was dried up completely, they took up some of these stone plates here, and under that they found another stone plate, and again in the underground one there was again human footsteps and dinosaurs' footsteps. This is one of the last photos in the year 2001 when we visited Dr. Cabrera. He is living in Ica, a small town in Peru, and he collected over 13,000 stones with carvings, very strange stones. And after the second visit, we got friend with him, and I have to say he was a collector. And I think at the moment, when he couldn't get any more real old stones, he started to give order to make some stones like old ones. Because one day he brought us to a small room and he said, this is the top secret room. He is never showing that to anybody. And he brought us inside and he showed us a stone with the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and so on. And you could see on the patina that the patina is completely different with most of his stones in his museum. So sorry to say, but the majority of his stones for me are original and very old, because a Spanish researcher team went there a few years ago after his death, and they got friend with one of the people who said one day in front of the police that he did all these stones by himself, but he had to say that because if he would have said, I sold the stones, he would have brought to the prison. So why these stones are not accepted by official science? Because they show dinosaurs with humans, all kind of dinosaurs. Here another one with human, here another one. You have here a step pyramid and two men, left side, right side, and the sun. You have here one man looking up to the stars. You have different stones with different operations. And because of Dr. Cabrera was a doctor, they said, of course, he was a doctor, so he gave order to make all these stones. Here, this one, very strange, it looks like a heart operation through the mouth, which he never would have asked as a doctor, because we cannot make any heart operations through the mouth. And then he brought us also to one long room, which he also never usually showed, and in this room were thousands of terracotta figurines. Again, human with dinosaurs, fighting with dinosaurs, riding on dinosaurs, and different operations. And if you look, the one who is the patient has a completely different head and face like the one who is doing the operation. And always, on most of these pictures, there is always a big leaf, which we do not have any explanations. Here another operation, so many, hundreds and hundreds of terracotta figurines. And if someone makes that, or if he gave order to do that, then I don't think he would bring them to one room and doesn't even show them to anybody. Or he would try to sell them, but he didn't sell them and he didn't show them. So the museum was partly destroyed after the last very heavy earthquake, and the family of Dr. Cabrera is taking care now. And on one of my next trips, I try to ask them if I can bring some of these terracotta figurines, because then it would be possible doing an age dating. So this one also looks like a dinosaur, but it is not from his collection. It is from another very interesting collection in Mexico, from Acámbaro. It's a small town in the west of Mexico City, and a German in the years of 1930, 1940, 1950, he made a collection of 36,000 terracotta figurines, and most of them were showing dinosaurs, humans with dinosaurs, and of course for the official archaeologists, for the government, for the Ministry of Culture, these pieces were all replicas or new done fakes. So you can see here that some of them are really looking perfect like a dinosaurus. Here you have another one, human face with two dinosaurs, and here you can see there were age datings done in the year 1968, carbon-14, in Isotopes Incorporation, New York. The age of one was 3,590 plus minus, the second one 6,480 plus minus 170, and the third one 3,060 plus minus 120. But of course this was also not accepted. Then they did another age dating, 1972, with, for me, I think that's even the better style doing age datings, the thermoluminescence, at the University of Pennsylvania, and both pieces were 2,500 BC. That means 4,500 years old. So for me, the real big question is, how could those makers who did these pieces could have known how dinosaurs were looking? Because, you know, it's not that long that paleontologists and anthropologists found out how the skeletons looked, because they found more and more skeletons. So two very interesting collections, but both of them officially are not recognized as original. Here you have the positive and negative of a human shoe step, and you see here the crashed trilobite here, The original was found in Texas and is now at the Creation Evidence Museum. We had it in the exhibition in Vienna. And trilobites, as you see here, finally disappeared in the mass extinction at the end of the Permian about 250 million years ago. This is another better photo where you can see that the volume, the weight has crashed this trilobite, and the form looks like a shoe, a human shoe step, but it's not accepted by the official science. This is one of these footsteps you saw before at the Biloxi River. They took it out, and of course, they wanted to show that it is not human-made, and they cut this footstep into several pieces, and then they could see that the wormholes in the material, in the stone, had exactly the form of the footstep. So an artificial made is completely impossible. Here you can see the deformation of the wormholes, and this is a petrified hand form in a stone. And this is an iron cup which was found 1948 in a big stone, in a big coal block in United States. The coal in this area is age dated approximately 65 million years. And you can see on this cup that the petrification of the coal deformed this iron cup. You can see here the petrification deformed a little bit the iron pot. So they also found this in United States. It's a petrified finger. They did several tests on it, and they could see on special scannings that the inside is more compact than the surrounding, which means bone and meat. But of course that's impossible because the age dating of this material in this area is about 120, 140 million years. This is a picture of the Santo Ecce Homo monastery, which was built 1620 in Colombia, close to Villa de Leyva. Villa de Leyva is an area where they find millions of fossils. The monks used these fossils for the ground floors and also for some statues. And you can see here on this picture the petrified pineapple. You can see here the petrified avocado here. This is a close-up of the avocado. Here you have the petrified corn. And this is Padre Huertas. He is professor for anthropology, he is professor for archaeological plants, and he is professor for plants. And he is holding in his hand a petrified cocoa bean and a banana. And he was checking all these pieces, and he said, these are definitely cultivated fruits and vegetables. The age of this area is approximately, because they found also a human hand and a human foot skeleton, bones, petrified in a stone plate, and the stone plate has the geological age of 140 million years. So, who could cultivate fruits and vegetables approximately 140 million years, where even the dinosaurs should not have existed? So I fully agree, and of course I'm a big fan of Michael, and I think he's on the right way, and his book, Forbidden Archaeology, is the truth and nothing else. This is another fruit, but also cultivated, and they made a small museum where they show these petrified cultivated fruits and vegetables. This is Padre Huertas with one human bone from this part, which is also much bigger, and he said that this human also must have had the size of about 2.5, 2.8 meters. So again, we are coming back to the existence of giants, and everybody of you know a lot of legends and fairy tales and stories about giants and little people, but I think in all these stories is always a very big percentage of reality. This picture here, you can see the petrified hand, human hand on the left side, and the petrified foot on the right side. We had this piece in Vienna, and we had also different checkings on it, and the result is it looks like human hand and human foot. But for me, the interesting thing is that here, again, here, this is the form of a trilobite. And you saw before that trilobites officially should have disappeared approximately 250 million years ago. But this stone plate from geologists is age-dated of 140 million years. In the same area, Professor Gutierrez, a very good friend of mine and a collector from an incredible collection of unexplainable pieces, showed me these pieces. You can see animals, and these pieces are bone, but petrified bones. So that means they must be very, very old. And the strange thing is that these kind of animals we don't know. And another strange thing is that some of these animals have even rings, like rings over the feet. You can see it here better. Here. And the animal itself, nobody knows. And what they also found there is one skull bone plate from one of these animals. In the middle, you see it because it looks exactly like the real animal shown here. This is the top of the skull, and there are many engravings in this skull, and also the left side, right side, is part of animals which are unknown. And all these bones are petrified. So we are talking about a really, really very high age. This is a close-up and better photo. Here you can see the carvings of this stone bone. And here you can see it is flat like the animal shown on the small bone pieces. What they also found there is one stone which looks like the Dr. Cabrera collection, and you can see a flat, a bat with a long tail. And another very interesting piece, a three-dimensional object with snake and different faces on it. And all this is very close to an area which is called El Infernieto. It's a 1,500 years old Muisca observatory. I don't believe that this observatory is 1,500 years old, because there is also a very huge underground room made out of big stone blocks. And around this area, there are many up to 8 meters high stone phalluses. And this material was brought from 60 kilometers far away over several mountains. So the big question is, how did they transport these very big, very heavy stone blocks to do the phalluses on the spot? And the area of this is close to Via de Leyva, and it's also close to the famous Lake Guatavita, which is famous for the story with the El Dorado, the king, which was put it over with gold powder, and then he jumped into the sea as a ceremony, and they put a lot of gold material and emeralds in the sea. We saw yesterday pictures, this morning, pictures from San Agustin. This statue, it's about 60 centimeters in size, is from San Agustin. And for me, it looked more, when I saw first, I thought it looks like a little bit connected with Egypt, but it was found in San Augustine, holding a child, or was it a presentation of a giant holding a human? We don't know. This piece also is from San Augustine, showing a step pyramid with a monkey, and on the other side a snake. And also this one is from San Augustine, and you can see that the face form does not look really like Inca face or indigenous face. And also this one was found in San Augustine. Some of the most interesting pieces I ever got for my exhibition, these pieces and the following one are also from the collection of Professor Gutierrez. This stone disc is 22 centimeters big. It's perfect and precise done, and you can see things on it which usually are not possible to see with eyes only. Like here, you have the human egg without and the human egg with spermia inside, and you have here the spermias, and you have here forms. You have a man, a woman, and a child, and on the other side, now this is the same size, and here is the photo. A Swedish photographer did, I think it was 20 years ago, a photo with a special microscope camera inside a lady, and it was showing the human egg without and with spermia. So it looks exactly like here on this photo. And on the other side of this plate, you see it looks like fetus in different age. But for me, this material is lyddite. Lyddite, or basanite called, is very hard. It is nearly close as hard as granite, but it is formed like leaves. So when we got these pieces a few months before the exhibition to Vienna, I asked the Natural Historical Museum, the mineralogical department, if they can do me a material check. And I asked the most expert on stone and precious stone work from the Kunsthistorisches Museum. He was the director of the treasure room and worldwide known as the expert. I asked him to attend the checking, and we did the checking, and the result was 100% it is lyddite. And he told me if I wouldn't have been here, I wouldn't believe you that this material is lyddite, because after checking this disc and the other objects, he told me, sorry, I cannot tell you who made it, how they made it, and when they made it, but the only thing I can tell you, we are not able to make the same artifacts out of the same material today with high tech. We are not able, it's impossible. So I think if they are not connected to any known pre-Columbian culture, the oldest one is the Valdivia culture and is dated back to 6,000 years. So then these artifacts should be older than 6,000 years. But then the next question is, how could they make or show things which we can only see with our own eyes, which we cannot see with our own eyes? We need electronic microscopes and everything. And the next one is, if someone can do such a great masterwork on stone, why does he show human with very big head, with big round eyes? That's the big question. And why here too, like human, but Professor Gutierrez, his theory is that that might be an evolution from frog to human. So I do not really agree with his thinking, but it's very strange anyway. This is a kind of weapon from the same material. This is a bat with tail, as you saw engraved in the stone before. and it's also made out of lyddite. And you cannot make such a foam out of this material because the structure, like leaves, would break immediately. But another strange thing is that all these pieces are perfectly geometrically done. You can see it here on this picture. And it fits any hand. If the hand is small or big, if you take this object, it fits exactly any hand. This is from the same material, how to use it, how to hold it, and other pieces, all from the same material. These pieces are so small, and especially this one, you can put the round form exactly over your finger and hold it, and it's exactly like your own finger. You can catch any point exactly and precisely. So I think these pieces were used for medical functions. And again, here you see that they are precisely done. It's perfect. As Professor Gutierrez is the most famous architect and industrial designer, he presented these pieces one day in United States in a university, and a young student said, Professor Gutierrez, isn't it true that you are a famous industrial designer? He said, could be. He said, why? He said, couldn't it be possible that you made these designs? And he said, yeah, man, if I would be that good, I wouldn't be only the best one in Colombia, I would be the best one on earth. And here you see all of these pieces are perfectly made. This one, we think it was done by a great civilization for people without a lot of knowledge, because I think this knife, it shows already how to use it. You see here the baby and the mother, and when the baby is born and the connection line to the mother is over the head, it might kill the baby, and it shows for what to use to cut this line. And the next one you see here was used for helping the baby at the time of birth, because you can see here the vagina and the baby head coming out. But if there is a problem, they should have used this. And when I had it in Vienna at the exhibition, I asked some doctors, and they were holding it in their hands, and they said it would be even safer using this one as in our days, because several times they hurt the baby's head or damage it. And with this one, it wouldn't be possible, because here you just can put this finger inside, and then you can hold it just with your two fingers. That means you would not be able to press or to put power on it. You could use it really just with a little help, and that means it would be quite safer than our material in our days. And again here, precisely done. Also, these two, this piece is done from lyddite, and you can see the strange thing showing round big eyes. And the same pieces, I got some pictures from Mongolia, southern Mongolia. Korean archaeologists found black stone figurines with exactly the same eyes and the same style of looking. Also, this one is done out of lyddite and also from Colombia. This is a very interesting piece. It is a very light stone, but the interesting thing is, on one piece you have three different forms. You see here the face of an animal, the eye. You see here a face like human face with a bird. You see here symbols, and on the other side unknown writing, and on the bottom is a crocodile. So that means a masterpiece of art. And when I was checking these pieces first time in Colombia, Professor Gutierrez showed me how much energy these pieces have. But as I didn't feel any energy, I was holding this and measurement and everything, and in the night, it is quite cold in Bolivia. I was a little bit freezing, but I woke up this night and I was sweating and my heart was just, I thought I was anxious to get a heart attack. From that moment on, this and the next pieces, I don't hold long in my hands anymore. So here, you see, as I showed you before, the two pictures looking like frogs. This stone, on the left side, you have an unknown writing, and exactly the same writing we found on stones in Ecuador, in Colombia, in United States, in France, in Italy, in Malta, in Turkmenistan, and even in Australia. So that means this unknown writing must be the approval that once there was either a global civilization or at least a global contact between people. And on the left side, you see the same figurines like on the genetical disc looking like frogs. And the interesting thing is that frogs, especially in South America, but also in many other countries, and even in China, in the past had always a very big importance. This is another one from these strange energetical stones, and you have on top of it, you have a face with horns and the form of an animal. And here, and the next few stones are from the same collection, from Colombia, and everywhere you have these unknown writings engraved. This is the backside, and most probably here there were precious stones, but the grave robbers, they must have taken them out. Here another stone from Colombia with the same writing. And this is also a very impressive piece. It looks like a bird and has completely different symbols on it, like on the other stones, but it was found at the same place, like this one and this one. Here again, you can see the unknown writing here, and this is a close-up. But for me, very strange are the feet of this human being showing here. And this is again lyddite, this very hard but very fragile stone. And here I think we have two different writings. This one, these are corals, inlays, and this one is completely different. So we don't know what culture did these objects. That's another stone from the same area found. And here, there is one animal which is not known what kind of animal, but Professor Gutierrez has several pieces with the same presentation of the same animal. So I think these artifacts are also very, very old. I have to ask how much time I have. Okay, so then I switch over a few pieces which were found in United States in a big underground tunnel system. Stones with exactly the same writing, which I just showed you before. But on these stones, you have different human on it, like this one from Egypt. This one, I always make a joke, it looks like a pilot. But then this one, Egyptian. This one could be European. So on these stones, you find all kind of different human. And this is also very interesting because even in Ecuador, there is a small museum, and the archaeologist of this museum found 2,000 years old little terracotta heads and on these terracotta heads you have all kind of black Africans, of Asians, of any kind of human. So the pieces are about 2,000 years, and the big question is they must have had contact in between, because otherwise they couldn't have presented them so precise. These are marble plates which were also found in United States in that big underground tunnel system, and it looks very much like Egyptian. But I think, for me, the research of the British researcher James Churchward, he was searching all his life for the lost continent Mu. I think that between this underground tunnel system and this so-called sunken continent Mu, there is a combination, there is a connection, because James Churchward found in South India, in a temple, the so-called Nakal plates, and the monks, the priests there, translated it with him, and it was the story about the sinking of the continent Mu. And later on, 1897, also a British man, but he was living in United States, William Neven, he did excavations in the Valley of Mexico and also in the province Oaxaca, and he found in the Valley of Mexico, under 3 different levels, sediments, he found 3 different civilizations, and the most advanced was the deepest one. And over that one was a volcano layer, and the last blowout of a volcano in this area was approximately 12,000 years ago. This looks definitely like Egyptian. Also this one. And also in United States, they found in a mound grave this Ushabti, Egyptian. And the translation of the hieroglyphs goes back about 4,500 years. And also this small black stone plate they found in United States in a mound. And the same writing they found in Calabria, in Italy, on terracotta plates and terracotta artifacts. So you see the same unknown writing worldwide. And always on these symbols, a very important thing was the sun. And also here one piece looks like a Dinosaurus, also from the same finding in Calabria. Then a very short step to the world stone map, which was found 1984 with other 350 artifacts in La Mana in Ecuador while gold digging in a tunnel system. And this stone is 350 kilo heavy, and it has a natural quartz line going around the stone. All the other lines are engravings, and you can see here in the Middle East is the inlay of an eye, and the natural quartz line goes through the Mediterranean. Here you see Italy and Greek, Saudi Arabia. India on this stone world map is bigger than in our days, but you remember that after the last tsunami in Southeast Asia, they found several sunken cities outside the Indian coast. So that means India in the past was bigger. An interesting thing here on the right side, Professor Kimura, the undersea geologist who is doing all the work close to Yonaguni, the big stone monuments on the ground of the sea, which were definitely human-made. He wrote a book about the sunken continent, and he told me that upon his research, he thinks that once the northeast island of Japan, which is now belonging to Russia, Sakhalin Island, down far after Taiwan, there was once a long continent. And this continent, as he explains, you can see here on this map. And then a close-up here with the inlay of the eye in the Middle East, and then the quartz line is passing the Atlantic Ocean, and here is a continent which does not exist in our days, and I think that could be the so-called not existing Atlantis. And it passes Venezuela and goes down, ends up here at the Bay of Guayaquil, and here is another inlay going up to north and a round inlay, and this is exactly the place where they found all these artifacts. One of the most interesting things found there is the pyramid with the eye. The pyramid is 27 centimeters high. It has an inlay of an eye here. The color of the stone is light gray. It has 13 steps, and when you put black light on it, the eye is shining really like an eye, but very strange. And on the bottom of the pyramid, you have the Orion constellation and again this worldwide unknown writing. And there was one Professor Schildmann, a German professor. He was perfect in 40 languages, and he could translate this writing, and he called this writing pre-Sanskrit. He said it is definitely older than Sanskrit. And the translation of these ink carvings was "the son of the creator comes." And when this picture was showing in United States, I got a telephone call from a professor, and he told me that his friend, a professor, Tuareg professor, he was watching with him the program, and he was shocked. He said, this looks like the former Tuareg writing, and he could translate without knowing what the translation was. He said, one of the words written here is sun. And Marcel Homé, a French researcher, archaeologist and researcher, he did a lot of research concerning Atlantis, and he was writing in one of his books that, on his opinion, Atlanteans came via the Canarian Islands to West Africa, especially the Tuaregs, he thought, are connected with these people, and especially this blue color and everything. Here you see a stone which shows how to hold the pyramid. You have the pyramid on your right hand, and you put your left hand on top of the pyramid. And here, on one stone, you can see a man sitting on a stone, holding the pyramid exactly how it was shown before. On his head, he has something like a helmet, a flat helmet, with something like an antenna going up to this ink carving. And from his eyes, some rays are going out, and here you have two human bowing. And this is the helmet. We don't know yet what kind of material it is, but you can see that here something was broken away. And another very interesting finding from the same place is one big cup made out of a kind of jade with 12 little cups. The writing, the numbers on the 12 little cups are looking like Mayan, but they are a little different. But they look like Mayan numbers, but they are different. And here you have a perfect star constellation inlay. And the strange thing is that all the little cups are handmade, and they all have a little different size and volume. But if you fill them plain with water, and you fill this water carefully into the big cup is plain full. And another very strange thing is, if you put a little magnet inside the cup, it's very magnetical inside. Outside, not. Only in the center of the three stars, which you see here, the big one, exactly here in the center, it's magnetical, and I talked with several geologists, and they said that's impossible, because if a stone has iron material, it must be same magnetical from both sides, but it is not. So it is a very strange artifact, and if you put this cup also under black light or ultraviolet light, the star constellation is shining very, very strong. Here you see the little cups. And that's another artifact from the same finding. You have here again the perfect star constellation and two persons looking up with their head and their eyes, and the star constellation also is shining very strong under ultraviolet light. This is another very strange piece from the same collection. It had the form of a heart, but it broke out this part, and the stone changes the color in the center from brown to black, which nature usually does not know concerning some geologists. But if you look carefully to this face, you see here the closed eyes. It's destroyed here. You see the closed eyes, you see the nose, you see the mouth, you see the long hair and the barb. And many people who looked at that told me, wow, it looks like the Shroud of Turin. But those pieces must be much, much older than 2,000 years, because as they show Atlantis and other continents which do not exist in this form in our days, these pieces must be at least 12,000 years old. So the question is, what kind of civilization was that? Also, another artifact, very strange, and cannot exist in South America, because the cobra didn't exist, never officially in South America. This is a cobra head, and you have here inlays, 32 lines and 1 dot, that means 33. And you have here 7 and 7, that might be the presentation of the chakras. And of course, when I show these pictures, many people think I'm a Freemason or I'm an Illuminati, but I just laugh about this because, of course, you find on the $1 exactly the same pyramid with 13 steps and the shining eye. But for me, definitely, these symbols were used later on by Freemasons and others, but these pieces and these forms have nothing to do with our time. I think they are so old that we do not know anything about it. I'm sorry, I think I have to stop now, because otherwise I'm overrunning the time. I could show you some more pictures, but I hope, okay, I show you some more. This is also from this place. It shows Kundalini. Kundalini comes from Asia. It has nothing to do with South America. So I think all these pieces were brought from the Middle East to South America, especially to this place. And why to this place? Because in La Manna there are 2 wells. And these 2 wells is for me the best water on earth, because the water has gold and silver colloidal in nanomicroscopic form. It is so small that with a normal analysis we could not find it, but only with a very, very special analysis in Germany. It has gold and silver colloidal, and the engineer Sotomayor, who found it, he was always talking about organic gold and organic silver. So of course, when I talk to scientists, they say organic gold and silver doesn't exist. But how does exist organic iron? Because Professor Del Rio, she found out, I think it was about 25 or 30 years ago, that human blood has organic iron. So why does not exist, should not exist organic gold? And when he showed us, he brought 1 pot of water, and he had a special metal which has the color like this watch, and he was cooking the water up to 90 degrees before it was starting boiling, and he was putting this iron inside, and in 3 minutes the gold colloidal was on the metal, and when I took it out, I could remove the gold colloidal from this plate. It was looking like it's a gold piece. So that means it was the approval that there is gold and silver colloidal inside, and it has the strongest energy. Because when I was bringing 10 10 1.5-liter bottles of this water in a carton box to the airport in Guayaquil, and I checked in. 15 minutes I was called. I had to go to a special room. There was a scanner inside. My luggage and the carton box was inside of 15 policemen with guns and army. And an Interpol officer asked me if this is my luggage, and you can believe me, my heart was going in my pants. I thought somebody might have put me something inside to kick me out of my researches, which would be the easiest thing. 20 years in jail would be quite a long time. So he asked me to put out the water. So I took out all 10 bottles, and I saw nothing inside. The first moment I saw, whee. Then he asked me, put it back. Then he took the box, and he put him 3-4 times into the scanner, but I couldn't watch what he was doing. Then he called. A doctor came with an empty injection. He took out of some of the bottles some material, and he went away. And I thought, hopefully nobody did me some powder inside the water bottles. After 30 minutes he came back, and he was talking with the officer. He took again the box several times inside the scanner, and then he told me I can go. Billy, I asked him first of all, where can I smoke? He said non-smoking. I said, okay, and I moved. And in Vienna, when we arrived, and I was walking out, nothing to declare, left side, right side, special police, I had to go with them. And then they showed me what happens. They said, if you put a carton box with 10 1.5-liter water inside the scanner, and you make a photo, you must see the shadows of the bottles on the picture. So he said, I make a photo. I was looking, I said, you know, you didn't make a photo. He said, yes, because the screen was black. There was no photo, was not showing anything. And later on, we found out that this water has 1.5 million POV. The best water in Europe, the water from the well of Fatima, has 640,000 POV. This water from Ecuador not only has gold and silver colloidal in nanomicroscopic form, but it has also the energy of 1.5 million POV, and that was the result why the scanner was completely mixed up. So these are some other artifacts from the same collection, and what I would like to show you is quickly some of the photos of some crystal skulls. Oh, sorry. Thank you very much. I hope